Hi, and thanks for joining our What Sold video for November 5th through 11th. I am recording this in a different location in our house, and I'm recording it on my computer instead of a camera that we usually use. If you enjoy this format and setup better, if the sound is better, if the video is better, let me know in the comments below and we'll make some adjustments. I'm just trying out some different things. But if you're new here, my name is Wendy and this is Nina's Jewels. My husband and I buy things at places like garage sales and thrift stores, and we sell them online to flip them for a profit. If that's content you're interested in, you're in the right place. Like I said, today's video is going to be what sold for the week of November 5th through 11th. Let's get started. The first thing that sold was a women's t-shirt, I guess. It was a long sleeve knit top. It was by the brand Mavi. It had a Stitch Fix tag on it. We found it in the bins. We had it for a very long time before it sold, despite having a lot of interest on the item. Our cost of goods were $1.33, and it sold for $15.98 on offer to buyer. Also, I want to mention one other thing before continuing to move on in this video. Almost exclusively, we offer free shipping on our items. I build the shipping cost and any other costs for the item into the price of the item when creating the listing. So if you see a price listed and what I'm saying is close to that price, generally we have free shipping. Sometimes it doesn't actually say that on eBay. We offer free shipping on eBay and Mercari, and then we do paid shipping on some eBay listings and all Poshmark listings. So if you see an item price that is larger than the screenshot that I'm showing on the screen, it's because there was shipping involved with it. So that's how we do things. It works out really well for us. I know some people don't agree with the free shipping model, but it's something that we've used for a really long time and it works out for us. I can talk more about that in another video if you're interested, but just to give you some information up front, because I do get a lot of questions about that. So moving on, the next item that sold was a pair of brown faux suede, or other people call them moleskin, Ivanka Trump pants. They were just pull-on pants. We got these at a garage sale for $5 and they sold for $39.99. That was our full asking price. Next up was a Pier 1 miniature light up color changing Christmas tree. It was just a little bitty tree that you would set on a shelf or something, and then you could turn it on and it would, it had an LED light inside that would go through all the different colors. We got this in at a garage sale where they had us fill up kitchen trash bags, and each of those bags was $10. And I had picked up a bag of ornaments. I've sold lots of ornaments from that bag. I've mentioned those in past what solds, but this item was also in there. And so I looked it up and it was Pier 1, and Pier 1 stuff sometimes does well. And we've only had this listed for a few months. Here it's selling right before Christmas. So I think it was worth listing. We had paid 33 cents for each of the items from that sale, and this item sold for a best offer of $13.25. Next up was a cassette. It was Birchfield Nines by Michael Franks. We tested it and it worked. It was a cassette from 1978. My husband got this at a thrift store. He paid 13 cents for it and it sold for $9.99. That was our full asking price. Next up was a 1987 Win double insulated electric chainsaw, owner's manual only. If you've watched any of our videos in the past, you know we sell lots of owner's manuals. They are so easy to list, so easy to ship, and they sell. I have one practically on every single what sold, at least one. So this one was actually gifted to me by a family member to sell. They know that we sell manuals, so they were cleaning things out, gave us all their old manuals. This we had no cost on, and it sold for $16.99, so that one was definitely worth it. Next up was an X10 Universal 5-in-1 Learning Remote Control. We tested it and it worked. We got this out of a bag of remote controls that we got at the thrift store. Our cost for this item was $1.08, and it sold for $14.99. That was our full asking price. Next up was one of my old computer items. I had told you that my parents had given me a box that had a bunch of old Apple II game boxes, manuals from the computer and things like that in it, and that they've been selling really well. So this was a vintage 1987 4-pack of Apple Computer Rainbow Apple stickers. They were original, sealed in the original packaging from when we purchased that computer back then. And these sold for $21 even on best offer. I had no cost because my parents paid for that computer and those games many, many years ago, I think in 1987. Next up was a 10-inch Nordic ware chrysanthemum bundt pan. We found this at that rummage sale that we went to on the first day. We paid $2 for it, and it sold for $23.98 on offer to buyer. Do be on the lookout for Nordic ware bundt pans. Not all of them sell for a lot. This one actually sold for a little bit less than a lot of them do, but there are some more uncommon shapes and things like that that can be really, really valuable. Next up was a Xbox 360 game. It was Deadpool. We tested it and it worked. We got it at a garage sale for $2 and it sold for $14 even on best offer. Next up was a U.S. Air Force aviator patch. It said Cloud 9 World War I and it had a pinup design to it. We found this in the other business that we own. There was just a big bag of patches that probably someone brought in and had framed, and then we ended up having the rest of the patches. I don't know, we had them for years and years and years. I don't know who originally brought them in, but we had no cost on that, and this patch sold for $8.18. We have several of these listed in a quantity, and we've sold lots over the years, and we hadn't sold one in a really long time, and then this sale popped up. Next up was an item that was gifted to me by a family member to sell. It was a tickled pink women's one size buffalo plaid tie waist ruffle wrap jacket. It was new with the tags. We sold this on Poshmark for $20 even, and that included shipping. So that price that I just gave you included shipping. Next up was a 4-pack of Razor Jets heel wheels replacement spark cartridges. I think, let's see, where did we get these? We got these at a thrift store, and I think they were in a thrift store toy bag. And they were new in the package, so we decided to list them. These we paid 22 cents for, and they sold for $9.99. That was our full asking price. Next up was a lot of 2002 Chick-fil-A Between the Lions. It was Cleo's and Lionel's favorite stories. They were on cassette, and they were new in the package. They were probably a kid's meal toy. We got these at the thrift store for 27 cents, and those sold as a lot for $15 even on best offer. Next up was a vintage book. It was The Allegory of Love by C.S. Lewis. It was a paperback version from 1967. We got this at the thrift store for $1.03, and it sold for $8.48. That was on offer to buyer. Next up was 2 IKEA white Algot pull-out basket drawer rails. They were new in the package. We got a bunch of these. It was, we think we got 10 pieces. I can't remember for sure, but we got a bunch of those at the thrift store. And like I mentioned in the last video, we do sell a lot of IKEA new and packaged stuff. And you can check out last week's What Sold video for information about that. But this we got at the thrift store. We paid $2.70 for them, and they sold for $30 even on best offer. Next up was a vintage mid-century modern Danish Kastrup Holmegard hand-painted Cluck Cluck decanter. I'm sure those are all important keywords. I looked this item up based off of Google Lens, and that's what it told me it was, so that's how I listed it. It took a few months to sell. I don't know if we would pick something like that up again, but we were happy with the profit that we made. We paid just 68 cents for this at the thrift store, and it sold for $24 even on best offer. Next up was a Tall Tales brand medium large adjustable hook and loop dog bandana. It was new in the package. We found this at a garage sale for $1.50. It only sold for $8. We had that in our store for a very, very long time. We were just trying to get rid of it and recoup what cost we could get out of it. So that was not a good pickup. I would not recommend picking that up again, but we are glad to have it out of our store and have a little bit of profit on it. Next up was a Venetia Jeans women's plus size pink iridescent, actually I have it listed as red denim iridescent jean jacket. So we found this inside of a storage unit that we had purchased for just $30. Our cost of goods on that unit broke down to 24 cents. We had a lot of interest in this jacket, but it still took a few months to sell. We had a lot of interest on every platform that we listed it on, but it ultimately sold on eBay and we got $25 best offer on that item. Next up was a Disney Sleeping Beauty Deluxe Singing Aurora. This was the replacement birds only part of the doll. So we sell all kinds of replacement parts for toys. We find them in toy bags and try to identify and list almost everything because you never know when somebody's coming to look for that item. This we got at the thrift store for 26 cents and it sold for $12 even on best offer. Next up was a vintage lot of 20 hard plastic 5-inch Christmas reindeer. They looked like maybe they were toppers for lights or some kind of garland. Some of them were tied together and some of them weren't, but they were obviously vintage. I picked them up at that garage sale where everything was free, so we didn't have any cost associated with them, and they sold for $31.98 on offer to buyer. Next up was a vintage 1987. This was one of the Apple II computer games. This was called California Games. It was the box and manual only. I had no cost with it, and it sold for $26.38 on offer to buyer. Next up was another one of the Apple games. This one was a 1984 Paperboy box and manual only. This one sold for $18 even on best offer. Next up was a pair of Sorel boots. I got at a garage sale for just $5. These were called Tremblant Black Mid-Calf Slouchy Knit Suede Winter Boots. So we had paid $5 for those at a garage sale and they sold for $69.99. That was our full asking price. That was a really good pickup. Next up was a men's Robert Graham button-up shirt. It was a white jacquard print, which means jacquard means that the weaving is done differently so that it's like a white on white design or, you know, whatever color it is. And when you hold it in the light certain ways, you can see that print woven into it. That's what a jacquard is. Some people call it jacquard. I don't really know which is the right pronunciation, but I say jacquard. We got this at the rummage sale on the second day. We paid $3.25 for it and it sold for $26.18. That was on offer to buyer. I will say that Robert Graham is definitely a brand to be on the lookout for. Some Robert Graham shirts, especially the ones that have very busy, loud, colorful prints, those can sell for up to $80. But the more plain, muted, you know, less print ones have sold for less. So definitely be on the lookout for Robert Graham. That is a brand that we try to pick up if it's in good condition and we can get it for the right price. Next up was a Bose Companion 2 Series 1 computer multimedia speaker system. They were Bose computer speakers that were new in the box. We found this at that rummage sale on day one. We paid $5 for them and these sold for $105 on best offer. So that rummage sale was great. In fact, I would say hands down that church rummage sales are my favorite sourcing location. We find the best deals, we get the best stuff. Church rummage sales are where it's at. We just have a hard time finding them. We don't see them very often. Next up was an authentic Louis Vuitton logo blue fabric packaging or gift ribbon. It was just a small piece of official Louis Vuitton ribbon. It was only 39 inches long and this was actually inside of a bag that my husband purchased at the thrift store. He picked it up because it had some Disney pins in it and some Disney lanyards and it had all different kinds of ribbons and things like that. It was just kind of a weird assortment of grab bag items and anything authentic Louis Vuitton is going to sell, obviously, and we had only 21 cents cost with this, and this sold really fast for $10.99. So any kind of Louis Vuitton packaging, boxes, the dust bags, even gift bags like shopping bags from the store and things like that, anything high-end like that, those items will sell. Next up was a Motorola Symbol handheld USB barcode scanner. We didn't know if it worked. I don't think. Actually, this one might have been the one that we tested and did work. In fact, I know it is. This is the one that we tested and it worked. We got this recently at a garage sale. We paid $10 for it, and this sold almost immediately for $59.99. That was our full asking price. Next up was a pair of Gymboree girls embroidered dot flare bootcut jeans. They did have some fraying on the back of the hem. We got these a long time ago at the Goodwill bins. We paid $1.50 for them, and they sold for $12 even on best offer. Usually Gymboree stuff sells way faster than these did. We had these in our store for a very long time, but I've mentioned when I've talked about Gymboree in the past that it doesn't always sell for a lot, but it usually sells really fast for me, but only if I look up the collection name that it came from. And there are Gymboree fan sites that you can go to where you can just type in the information off the tab off the tag, and like it'll say like spring 2017 or whatever. You can look up that collection, find out exactly what it was called. Like, I will just make one up, you know, sometimes they're called like winter babies or strawberry fun or something like that. So if you include that information, like, you know, spring 2017 strawberry fun in the title, it'll make your item from Gymboree sell so much faster, like usually pretty fast. And that's because the Gymboree collections are all mix and match, and so people are sometimes trying to get the whole collection for their kid to wear, to have a lot of mix and match stuff. But we always pick up Gymboree because of that reason, because I know that trick and I can get things to move fast. But for some reason with these particular jeans, I searched high and low everywhere and I could not find the collection name, and I know that's why these took so long to sell. So anyway, just a tip on that. Next up was a premium replacement toner cartridge for an HP color laserjet printer. This was like a refilled or remanufactured cartridge. It was not an original HP. We got this when we purchased a big lot of remanufactured cartridges from a cartridge store here in our area that was liquidating a lot of their stock, and so we purchased a lot of that. And these cartridges will sell for us every once in a while. It's a nice little sale, but for the most part they're just pretty big and bulky and taking up a lot of space, and I'm ready to get rid of them. But this one sold for $57.99. That was our full asking price. Our out-of-pocket cost on this was $3.19. So it was a good sale, but you know, it had been sitting in our store for a long time. Next up was a vintage lot of 4 faux fruit. They were rubber grapes, and they looked realistic. I always try to put the word realistic when it's fake fruit or something like that, and they are realistic. That makes them sell better. We got these at an estate sale for $2.50, and they sold for $14.98 on offer to buyer. Next up was a vintage book. It was a German comic hardcover book from 1949, and the artist was called I'm definitely gonna butcher this first part. Neues Wilhelm Busch. And the book was like actually in German. So we had gotten a lot of German vintage books, specifically music books and opera books and things like that at this sale. But this was, you know, kind of a random outlier, this German comic. We actually sold this on Mercari for $27, and that was a best offer, and we had paid just 54 cents for this. We got it at an estate sale when it was day 4, and they had everything marked down 75%. Next up was a vintage deck of Braniff airline cards. The cards were still sealed inside the cardboard box, but the cardboard box on the outside had a lot of wear. We got these out of a storage unit. We paid just 28 cents for them, and they sold for $8 even on best offer. Sometimes vintage airline stuff can do really well, so I remember being excited when we found these, but these didn't turn out to be as valuable as we had hoped. But they did go to Los Angeles, which I thought was interesting because, you know, I always think, you know, is it going for a movie prop? I always find that to be so interesting. I think anybody who resells would find that to be really interesting if something they sourced ended up in a movie somewhere, but maybe these will. Next up was a vintage Dallas Cowboys Toltecs long sleeve sweatshirt. I don't have the date of when it was from, but it was definitely vintage. We got this at a rummage sale for 42 cents. It was a fill-a-bag church rummage sale, another great deal. And this sweatshirt sold for our full asking price of $24.99. Next up was a sale of a CD from 1992. It was called Danse Macabre, and it was like classical type music. We got this gifted to us to sell by a family member, so we didn't have any cost. Unfortunately, it sold for $15 on best offer. The buyer returned it and said they didn't like it. Like they didn't like the music, I don't know. But we've gotten burned a couple times on selling used media that's then gotten returned to us, and I'm always really suspicious that they listened to it or made an illegal copy of it or used it in some way, and then, we're just getting it back. So in my store that is used media listed this way yet, it's something that I need to sit down and do. But anything new I'm listing that's used media, I'm starting to put no returns on it, because it's just, when we offer free returns, so that makes it really easy for people to send something back, which normally isn't an issue. But on used media, I just have a lot of questions about why they're returning the item, and I just don't think that you should be able to return used media. I don't know, that's my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Next up was an 11-piece lot of Maxell mini floppy disks. These came with that whole bulk lot of stuff that I got from my parents of old computer stuff. So these were new old stock, they were not used. These we sold for $24.68 on offer to buyer, and like I said, we had no cost on those. Next up was the complete DVD series box set of the show Get Smart. We found this at that church rummage sale. We paid $3.25 for it, and it sold really fast for $30.38 on offer to buyer. Next up was a men's Ralph Lauren pinstripe dress shirt. It had the pony embroidery on it. We got this at a garage sale for $2, and it sold for $17 even on best offer. Next up was a mixed lot of 16 Bon Appetit magazines. They were from 2013 all the way to 2022. We had gotten these for free from someone on the Nextdoor app who was giving away magazines for free. These sold for $22 even on best offer. And Kevin is outside mowing and weed eating and edging and stuff, so if y'all hear weird noises, that is what that is. Next up was a genuine Samsung power adapter or cord, and it was for a monitor. We got this at a garage sale for $2, and it sold for $16.99. That was our full asking price. Next up was a video game. It was Mario and Sonic at the London 2012 Olympics. This one was for Wii. It was complete in the box. We tested it and it worked. We got this at a garage sale for $1, and it sold really fast for our full asking price of $18.99. Next up was a 20 by 15 children's nursery calligraphy print. It was called The Sugar Plum Tree by Rachel Joy Colvin. This was from the other business that we own, which is a custom picture frame shop. This is old stock that we no longer sell. We had no cost on this, and it sold for $27.99. That was our full asking price. Next up was a DVD of Rise and Dawn of Planet of the Apes. It was a 2-movie collection. It was new in the package and sealed. We got this at a garage sale for $1, and it sold on sale for $18.04. That was our full asking price. Next up was a vintage new with tags wool blend men's sweater by the brand Cedar Bend. It was beige and had a maroon stripe on it. We got this at a garage sale for $3, and it sold for $39.98. That was on offer to buyer. Next up was a vintage 1990 Hallmark keepsake Christmas ornament. It was called Gentle Dreamers. This came from the Goodwill bins. We paid $1.03 for it, and it sold for $15.99. That was our full asking price. Next up was one of the Francoma pieces. We went to a garage sale where we got a bunch of Francoma pottery for just $10 for all of it. That was a great deal. This was a gravy boat. It sold for $42 even, and we had paid just 75 cents per piece from that lot. Next up was a men's pair of Lucky brand jeans. Like I've mentioned in the past, men's Lucky jeans do great, not so much on women's, but we always pick up men's Lucky brand jeans. These we got on the first day of that rummage sale. We got 2 pair of men's Lucky brand jeans that were the exact same style and color. They were just different sizes. This is the second of the two that has sold. We paid $2 for these and they sold for $23.98 on offer to buyer. Oh, we just got an offer on a sweater. Next up was a Chico's Travelers women's jacket. That's another thing we do really well with. Specifically, Chico's Travelers always flies off of our shelf. That is a very popular collection at Chico's. Chico's anything else, if it doesn't have the Travelers name on it, does not do as well. But this one we got at a garage sale. We paid $2 for it and it sold immediately for $25 even on best offer. Next up was an item that was gifted to us to sell. This was a St. Nicholas Square angel figurine. It was new with tags, new in the box. We sold this for $18 even and we had no cost. Next up was a 2010 Mattel Target exclusive Barbie I Can Be Dolphin trainer. This was the replacement dolphin only. We got this out of a thrift store toy bag for just 22 cents and it sold for $11.04. Next up was a lot of 2 Weaver press cloth dressmaker hams. One of them was just a regular dressmaker ham and the other one was a sleeve ham or sleeve roll. I don't know exactly what you call it, but sleeve ham sounds really weird. We got this at a thrift store. We paid $4.32 for both of them all together and they sold together for $27 even on best offer. Next up was a lot of 2 Ducks Unlimited resin mini duck decoys. We got these at an estate sale for just $2 and they sold for $55 even on best offer. We did hear back from the buyer saying that the bill on one of the ducks when he got it was broken off and he said that we didn't wrap it well, you know, which we don't ever do anything perfect, but wrapping things well is something Kevin takes a lot of pride in, so I'm sure it was probably mishandled by the post office, but he has opened a return. I'm not sure if he's sending one back or both back, but we'll see. Or, you know, sometimes people open returns and then you never hear back from them. So we'll see what happens on that. Next up was a Gans Webkin black plush bat. It did not have the code with it. And it was not a super valuable Webkin. Some Webkins can be super, super valuable. So if I can get them for cheap, I usually pick them up because I don't want to take the time to comp them. This one we purchased for $1 at a garage sale and it sold for $14.44 and it sold really fast. So no regrets about picking that up. Next, I will go over all of the collectible cards that sold from my husband's personal collection. The first one that we sold was a high value card, meaning a card valued at $10 or over. This one was a Magic the Gathering Unlimited Sinkhole card. We sold this for a best offer, actually an offer to buyer of $21.18. And next, I'm going to go over all of the low value cards that sold from my husband's personal collection. So these are $10 or under cards. We sold a total of 29 cards for a total dollar amount of $69.31. So like I mentioned in the last video, our card sales are definitely up. That always happens in fourth quarter. And we had 3 lots of cards, big lots of cards that sold to buyers. So, and then the rest of them were individual. And we had 2 of these sales happened on Mercari, the rest were on eBay. So that wraps up everything from this particular week. So now let's go over the totals. We had 59 sales in total. We had an average sale price of $22.81. That is kind of low, but that's because we had so many card sales this particular week, and that brought our average sale price down. Our sales totaled $1,345.64, and that made for a net profit of $737.78. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please let us and YouTube know by hitting the like button. And if you're not already subscribed, we would really appreciate it if you would consider hitting that subscribe button with the notification bell on. That way you can be kept informed of all of our future content. It doesn't cost you anything and it means a lot to us. Thank you again for joining, and we will catch you on the flip side.